where we're heading. I didn't know whether to wear my helmet and tear offs or what.
This could be a bit of chaos, but that's okay because at least one of us on this screen has made a career out of chaotic driving moves. I'll leave you to pick which one you think that might be. I'm joined by Big Rev Neville Lance, the quiet achiever Graham Jones, and the top-end Terminator Warrenne Ekins. Fellas, how good to catch up with you all. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, good thing, Wade. Thanks for organising it. Sounds good.
Well, I thought we should have a bit of a BS session. There's a lot of pretty scary stuff going on at the moment. So what could be more scary than Warrenne Ekins on Skype, Lancey? I mean, it doesn't get much scarier than that.
Well, I'm not sure it's scary, mate. I mean, it's I've never been this close to him. Face to face, it's scary.
So we're just going to BS. I have no plan. I just wanted to get you all together. I thought, what better way than to celebrate the good things in life at the moment than to get three of the greatest Aussie Speedcar drivers that they've ever been and put you in one place. And this is the best way we can do it technology-wise. Nev, start with you, mate. How's things going for you with all this, the virus BS? How's it affecting your world at the moment?
It's definitely slowed down business-wise. I mean, but we're still struggling on. I mean, like I said earlier, we did apply for that JobKeeper through the business, but we haven't had a downturn enough yet to qualify. So we'll wait till next month and do the April and see how it goes at the end of April.
And how about with your beautiful grandchildren and everything, mate? Are you still seeing the kids and all of your extended family?
Yeah, seeing them a little bit. I mean, obviously they're all sort of isolated, but yeah, we still catch up. Yeah, that's all good.
Jonesy, how are things going for you, mate, with all this virus stuff?
Well, for me, it hasn't mattered too much other than because of the bit of treatment I'm on and the immune system being a bit low. They've just told me I've got to hibernate. So that's what we're doing. I mean, business-wise, I dumped mine, 12 months or more ago, just something I had to do. So, yeah, it's okay. I mean, I got a pretty big shed with a couple of race cars, and I had a S-Series Valiant sitting there for 26 years that I've put on stands, and I've started a restoration job, and I pretty well 3/4 of the way pulling to bits, and I don't know what the hell I've started. What a job.
Warrenne, how are things going for you, mate?
Yeah, pretty quiet, Wade. We've because we're in the hospitality industry pretty heavily. It's knocked us around a bit, but we put a bit away for a rainy day, and just hope they doesn't rain for too long. But I thought viruses were something you get on your computer, but it looks as though they've found another one.
Absolutely. The three of you guys have all had your health concerns over the last few years. It's wonderful to see you all looking so well. I got to say, apart from Warrenne, he looks like the 40 years of drinking has finally caught up with him. But the rest of us, I heard some good news, Graham, that Gwenny's doing pretty well. She put on a little bit of weight. Is that true?
She put on a kilo the other week and we all celebrated. How's that for a woman? Putting on a kilo and we're all happy. So it's all good. I've just got a message for Warrenne. I've always got the philosophy in life that we spent the first 40 years of our life wrecking the body and the next 40 trying to fix it. So I think we're at that stage now.
Yeah, I'm still in the wrecking mode.
Lancey, you're looking $1 million, mate. Sherry was saying before, you've done, how many rounds of chemo have you done now?
Oh, I think it's 46.
Wow.
Yeah, I just finished it today. I got it off it, my bottle off it, I think about 3:30 this afternoon, so I'm starting to feel good.
Okay.
But, yep, hopefully by Saturday I'll be back on top of the world again.
Let's just start with some generic stuff. When was the first time, Jonesy, you ever heard about Warrenne Ekins?
Oh, gee whiz, I think it wasn't the first time I went to Darwin because I went and raced up there when Fenton was up there. Oh, no, I went up there and went Baggett Park, the end of Baggett Park. And then again when Fenton was running, but that was at North Line. So it was probably after that second run, Holty was telling us that, yeah, Warrenne was coming on board and had a car and was going. And then I did I think Warrenne might remember, probably the first time I really raced with him, we went up and did a big night at North Line. And then I think we went to, not Alice Springs, Three Springs, somewhere for the Northern Territory title, Warrenne.
Yeah, Tennant Creek.
Tennant Creek was the one. Yeah, that's it, fella. So that was probably the first time we raced together, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be right.
I think we raced actually at Claremont prior to that. But then when you had your Cosworth and you were with Kim, you came to Darwin. Neville was there at the same time, I think, for that meeting. And we it was a good series.
Yeah, that's right. No, it was some good time. That's when Holty loaded up the truck. He took all the cars down there to Tennant Creek. Yeah, but took a whole heap. Yeah, that's right.
I bet Holty was wearing his thongs.
Yeah, the Aussie ones, nothing. Yeah.
He used to race in thongs, didn't he? Didn't I hear a story that Holty used to race in thongs?
Bare feet, no thongs.
Wow. And what about you, Lancey? When was the first time that Warrenne Ekins came across your radar?
It would have been the national title Tom Watson won in Perth. I think Warrenne was driving an Alpha. Did you have an Alpha back then?
Correct. Yeah,
I sort of met him then for the first time, and then from then on it was time to get serious, I think. And we just sort of caught up every time there was a national title. And I think one year I went to Darwin, but I don't think Fenton was running the show then. It was another promoter. I can't think of his name, but yeah.
Probably Barry Butterworth, maybe.
Possible. I don't know. Can't remember, but yeah, that was about then. The first time would have been the national title that Tom won.
Yeah.
And Warrenne, what about these two guys, these two West Aussies? I mean, at the time when you started Speedcars, West Australia would have been a pretty big deal, I would have thought. You would have known of these guys?
For sure. Both Neville and Graham were big names to me. We went and raced them, as Neville said, at Claremont, and I had a Curtis Craft copy monorail, an old Ross steering box and an Alfa Romeo, and spare wheels. You didn't have a lot. So, our artillery was very limited, but West Australia was really good at when we went down there first. I really loved it. And you had Tommy Watson Senior and Tommy Watson Junior and Neville and Graham were all going very. There was a guy called Fergie Donaldson that was running really well. They were all coming on, and Billy Coto. There's a name from way back, and it's funny that the guys that you remember when you think back.
Wow, Billy Cato. In that sense, you brought up Billy Cato. That's number 16, I think. I think
there's a funny part about that. I remember the national title that we won at Claremont, and I thought Billy was bogged in turn 2 because I passed him so many times in turn 2. I said to myself, "Geez, this guy bogged here or what?"
It took us 7 minutes and 50 seconds, fellas, for Warrenne to say when I won the Australian title at Claremont.
Yeah, you got a stopwatch going.
I'm watching that. How long this thing takes? Do you know you had a hookup with the Darwin Club, Warrenne, for that title because they were listening to the audio long before there was live feeds. They had one of those big house bricks, the old phones, up in the commentary box with us, and everybody, I think, in the club rooms back in Darwin listened to that title, listened to the commentary, and then we took the phone down trackside to you. That must be very vivid in your mind, Warrenne.
It was, and you look back at those times, and I look at today's racing, and I look at ours, and everybody races within an era. And I was thinking about it today. Our cars have changed, the drivers. I don't know whether the drivers are any better than what they were back then. Just the equipment and the style of racing has changed. It's just stepped it up a gear, and they're racing a lot more professional today. I think there's far more drivers racing professionally than what they were back in our day. Like we all used to have a job and go away to race, where these guys, they just turn up. Now you've got the Americans coming over, and it's just probably far more professional, I suppose. Yeah.
Jonesy, you've been good friends with Con for a lot of years. I vividly recall that you would call Con on a Saturday morning and talk about the night before and review it all because you've been a Speedway fan right across the board for years. Do you recall that Con refused to call Warrenne Ekins in the commentary for that entire title weekend? And if you do remember that, do you remember what he called him?
No, look, I only heard a bit about it after, but I do remember him calling it Ekins, wasn't it? And he kept being reminded that it was Ekins. Yeah, I don't know, but that was
Warrenne. Yeah. Do you remember, Nancy? Do you remember what Con called Warrenne that weekend?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Come on, Warren, what was it?
Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill.
I didn't know that.
Bill.
I didn't know.
Do you want to explain that, Warren?
Not really. I'll leave that one to come.
So I was working in the office at Claremont. It was, of course, your title defence after Darwin. And there was a letter that had come to our office from, might have been your solicitor, Warren, I couldn't possibly say, that said that we were not to refer to the Australian Speedcar champion, Warrenne Ekins, in any pre-event publicity. Would that be remotely close to the money there?
Yeah, well, there was a bit of stuff going on between me and Con because he refused to acknowledge me as a national champion. So, and I just said, well, if you won't acknowledge me as a national champion, don't promote me as one, because that was a bit of a sour grapes thing. But me and Con have obviously well past that now. Yeah.
It was pretty funny because I remember him saying many times, "Here he comes, the national champ, Buffalo Bill."
Hey, there you go. That's the first I've heard about it. So no, I didn't know anything about that at all. Oh, okay.
I mean, you came down, Warren, to that Aussie title, and I think we all thought, hey, no one beats us at home, Lancey, and that's a fair comment, isn't it, mate? Wasda was an absolute powerhouse, and to come and smoke us at home was going to be a big order for anyone, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Warren's always been a class driver, and he's got good equipment, and he's always had a good crew, I guess, that helped him out. And yeah, he's always been the boy to beat when he's in town, that's for sure.
Well, he had some West Australian in his corner too, Jonesy. Now, some guy called Jeff Murphy. Now, you and Warren went at it in that title, Jonesy. I think it's fair to say between the two of you carved it up in that Aussie title.
Yeah, look, I guess really when it come down to the night, it was probably going to be between me and Warren, because we're both on top of our game at the time. In fact, the title was tight. I mean, it only come down to a couple of lap cars. That was the difference. It was. I'll tell you a little story that Warren brought up when we were in Warrnambool the other weekend about our 2-lap dash, Warren. When I give you a bit of a touch.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've always got to explain it to you one day, but I haven't, so I will tonight. Okay.
Oh, nice.
We were lining up with the last two to go out for the knockout, and I didn't know at the time what it was about. I found out afterwards, but excuse me. But our first line-up was pretty good. We took off, got the green, and I think I might have just had the edge to start with. They threw the yellows on. We had another line-up. We had another go, and they threw the yellows on. I think it was either 3 or 4 times, Warren, wasn't it? We're getting sick of lining up.
Yep.
And then we're coming up to Warren jumped a bit, so I sort of went with him. And they threw the green, but as Warren come across the racetrack, he took my front end, pushed me to the wall. I had to get out the gas, otherwise I was going to hit the wall. And I thought I'll turn the green off. Well, they didn't. They left the green on, so I think I saw a flash of red. So I'll get this bugger. So that's what I did. I went after it, and I didn't know whether to put you right around. I thought, nah, I'll just give you a touch up, and then went around the outside. And I think I might have given you the bird when I went past.
Wow.
So that's what it was about. It was a bit entertaining, but so that's what it was. I mean, and the race was, you're right, Wade, we were. It was hard at it. And I think as I can still remember, I come up onto Bill Cato and Ron Glazebrook to lap them together, and I was going outside Bill and under Ron. And as I did, they came together, and I had to get out of the gas to get off it. Warren went through, and by the time I got out past them, I was back onto chasing him down. But I don't know if you remember, Warren, they took 5 laps off that race. It was only a 35 lapper, not a 40 lapper. And
yes, I did.
That's because it was a bigger track, I believe.
Yeah, everyone else. Ewan, we needed that other 5 lap. But anyway, besides all that, it didn't matter, because I mean Warren was a worthy champion. It was either one of us would have won it. And I mean, obviously I was shitty to lose it, but a worthy guy won it, so it was all good.
Con was a wonderful showman with certain things, Jones. I recall when you came back, and the first time we ever saw you with Australia One, when you rolled around the track and you played Everyone's Talking About the Jones Boy on the PA, and it still gives me goosebumps watching you roll around with that number 1 to welcome you home as the Aussie champion. That must have been just a huge honour to finally come home with that tail tank, to win it over in Queensland, which is a big effort.
Yeah, obviously it was an awesome night. I think between Con and John Day, you remember the General did all that big welcoming banner. No, it was awesome, and I think like all of us, we're pretty proud to be part of the Speedcar scene. And look, and I'm still in today. I just love it. Warrenne touched on it a lot. I think every now and then when I'm working on them in the shed, I think I just sit in one and I think, no, I could still give this a go. but not now, maybe 10 years ago. But I do just appreciate watching these guys today, and I admire what they do. And I think, the main thing is it's just doing it with a little bit different equipment, a different setup. But as racers, they're all, today, they're the same as what we were. There was certain people are just gassers, will try to win at all costs. And some people, are going to make it, and some, are never going to make it. But it's a great sport, and I just love it and was proud to be part of it. Yeah, for sure.
Jones, what was made of the rivalry between Warrenne and Neville, particularly after Darwin? Warren's asked me not to bring this up, so we'll just gloss over it. There was a lot of rivalry between those two publicly, probably not as much privately. But when Neville finally won that Australian title at the Plex, I was at Albany for World Series Sprint Cars, actually, that night, when word came through that Neville won the Australian title. And I just announced it because it had come through to me on the PA. And I got a text message within 10 seconds from somebody saying, "You effing ripper." I want you to guess who you think might have been the first person to text me to say, how good was that?
Well, I'd know quite a few that might do it, but was it one of Lancey's crew?
No, it was Warrenne Ekins. Yeah, first person. Yeah. You'd remember that, Warrenne, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I do. It's, we don't really, I didn't want to get into this, but it was hard for Neville and it was hard for me what happened in Darwin, and I really aspired that Neville is a champion. There's no two ways about it. And he got his title, and I couldn't be as excited as Neville, obviously, but I was very excited for him and his team and his family to achieve that after so much effort and years, of racing, and to get it done. It was a big thrill to me, I can tell you.
That's good. Hey, listen, while we were on that, what I said I was going to tell you what happened with our 2-lap dash, Warrenne. Afterwards, when it was all over, the stupid stewards we had down at the Motorplex that night, and I'm just talking how it was to people, they said to me, because of the conflict in Darwin, they weren't going to let our 2-lap dash go unless Warrenne was in the lead. There you go.
Good on him.
So really, I wish I had hit you harder and put you right around. We could have lined up again.
Nev, you must remember that Aussie title win at the Plex like it was yesterday.
You're talking to me there? Yep.
Yeah.
It was a long time coming. It was like getting that monkey off my back. It was really good. It was something that I felt I should have got earlier. Forgetting about Darwin, but there was other titles that Warrenne and I raced. There was Parramatta, I'll never forget. It was that one there was just down to the last few laps, and I know Warrenne was driving a car that was injured. I think the power steering from memory or something had failed at the start of that race, and I might be wrong here. I think he broke his power steering. Is that right, Warrenne, or something?
Yeah, the power steering hose blew off while we're forming up. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just, I guess, a bit unlucky for myself, but
When we used to run it, they used to take 6 horsepower off the engine.
That's right. I know, but I don't know how you can drive a speed car with power steering that's got no pump left on it. It's just, it's very hard. It's a lot harder than a manual steering box. But to get that national title, it was a great feeling, and we had a great party next day, and I don't think we slept for 2 days. We just sort of had a few milks here and there and sort of drank a lot of water. But no, it was a lot of fun. We got everyone together, and very enjoyable weekend. Very enjoyable.
Just to interrupt you there a bit, it's funny how we can talk now and be a bit open about how you feel because it brings things out. But Neville and I are probably a little bit down the same road where there was quite a few we should have won and different things happened that we didn't. Not distracting from the people that did win. Other people win them not easy, but it just all completes for them. If like with Figs at the title, the last one at the Claremont, he had engine trouble on the heat night.
Yeah,
so
that's
right.
Repair
an engine and come back and run the final night. I had to run the heat night and did an engine on the final night. It's how the cookie crumbles, It was, and yeah, say for Neville and myself, there probably should have been a couple others, but other people, they got them. Not, as I said, not distracted from they didn't deserve it. Yeah, it was.
I can always remember Warrenne saying, "I don't need any good luck. I just don't want any bad luck." Yeah. So look, all over the years, I mean, as racers, I mean, sometimes we didn't talk a lot. I mean, now that we don't race, I mean, we get along a lot better than we ever did, I think. I mean, it's sort of, you always reminisce of what happened and things have passed, but I wouldn't change a thing for what I've done in my motor racing.
Good comment.
Glad that you mentioned what you just mentioned, because I was just going to say that the three of you had very different, although maybe Warrenne and Neville had similar driving styles. They're both pretty ruthless, whereas you were more the gentleman, Graham. I remember that. You were more of the gentleman. Although I don't recall you flipping Warrenne in the pole shootout. I might have changed my mind about that. But if you throw Michael Figlamini into the mix, he's the one I wish we had in this chat right now, for a lot of reasons. That Aussie title you mentioned, Graham, I vividly remember Michael on the Saturday, the car was just out to lunch, even with his setup, and he sat down, he dragged a milk crate back from the car under the pavilion there, that pit pavilion we had.
Yeah.
And I just watched him sit back and just look at the car. And he'd get up and he'd walk to a corner of it and touch something, and he'd go back and sit on the milk crate, and he would do that 2 or 3 times, and he went out and won that title. He was a great mix of talent and mechanical brilliance, I think.
Oh, look, hey, definitely. I always thought, like, when you're talking to these two guys, I reckon they had it on easy street. Both of them had Murphy in the corner. I used to do everything myself. I couldn't. Everyone to me was competition. Gwen often used to say to me, "Oh, why don't you get Murphy to build a car?" And I thought, I'm a Capricorn, I think, which is a goat. She says I'm stubborn, and probably pretty right. I built my own engines, put my own cars together. That's what I did. I won a lot of races not knowing what I was doing, but I did. And I learned on the way. But Figlamini was a step further. I mean, he used to get a length of chromoly and build his own race car.
Yeah.
And then build his engine and put it together and set it up. He was a talented man. He really was, yes.
Yeah.
And it was out of necessity that he built his own car, because he had a monster crash with Wayne Cover at Claremont and destroyed his Murphy, like absolutely just destroyed it, put himself in hospital. Nev, I'm sure and Graham, you probably remember it too. He came off turn 4 and just tagged with Wayne Cover, and the thing flipped all the way down the straight forwards and ended up down into the front. And it was after that, I think, that Michael said, well, if I'm going to be in this situation, I'm going to build my own cars. The Indian file events, Nev and Graham in particular, I don't know how many Warrenne got to race in, but my highlight as a spectator was always the Indian file. Was it as much fun as a race car driver, or was that like, oh shit, belt down, here we go?
Well, I always thought if you could win the Indian file race on the back, mate, that was harder than the feature. I mean, it was like, it's back in the Claremont days. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think, Graham, we used to start like 22, 24 cars, didn't we? I mean, and to win that race from the back of the pack, I mean, it was a hard feat. I mean, it was, I don't think I won too many of them, but it was a lot of fun. It was all good.
I hated it when they put it on before our feature race, because you didn't know if you're going to survive. You don't know. I remember I won I don't know whether it was 3, 4 or 5. I won of them in a row, and they gave me an actual file with a chook feather straight to the top of it.
Okay.
The Indian file.
Wow.
But look, it was just, as I often said, we just went down on a Friday night to shift dirt, and it was just a relief from what we did all week or whatever. I know I had a pretty intense business, and probably towards the end, I probably shouldn't have raced, because my business had got so big and the debt had got so high, and it just consumed so much of my time. But no, not complaining, I loved it. But it was just a relief. Yeah, to go and shift some dirt on Friday night was just great. It's just what we did. It was good.
There was an event at Burswood, fellas, indoors at the Superdome. I vividly recall us being very nervous about the track, whether it's going to hold up, and we had all the media there, because, as you know, in Perth, all the TV crews used to show up, and I'm pretty sure we're all three. I know Warrenne was. Did you practice, Nev and Graham, for that?
No, I can't remember. I don't.
Laps before the night racing.
Yeah, it was during the day. The typical news conference we always had for Speedway with the news crews. Did you guys practice?
No, I wasn't there. No.
Because Max Dumsney drove Wayne Cover's car. Stephen Graham was there. There was a bunch of people. And you guys Warren's rolling around, ready to throw the green, and Con and I standing going, geez, I hope this track's any good. And they threw the green, and Warrenne gassed it, and the thing stood up on the back wheels, went all the way down the main straight on the back wheels. He put it in the corner, round the corner, back straight on the back wheels, and we just went, you know what, this is going to be all right. Do you remember what that was like, Warrenne, racing at that place the first time?
Yeah, I said to Murph, he built a car, a special car for that deal, and I don't know whether it was a help or a hindrance, but I said, let me have a run at giving it on the first night. And he goes, yeah, rightio. And what you just described is exactly what happened. And I said, this thing needs a shot of Valium, like it's out of control. And he had sway bars on it and, all hydraulic adjustable. There was more levers in there than a bloody shopping trolley, Anyhow, he after the first night, I said to Murph, I think you better have a crack at this and he just stiffened the back of the car up, and it was pretty good. Yeah, it was very, very, it was a bit smack 'em up derby sort of stuff. I actually, a couple of times it's come up on TV recently on Facebook, and old Neville gets into a couple of guys and gives Holdy a bit of a touch up. It was...
Really? I don't remember that.
It was quite.
I didn't remember you hitting me.
Yeah. And I think Graham was driving Danny Lendich's car. Would that be right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the first time
He's dropped out.
I hopped in Lendich's car. Warrenne, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that, Warrenne. Yeah, you're right. And Keith Giles rolled over, went to the back, and came back and won. I think it was the first night. Gilesy won in that in the 8 car.
Yeah, I think he did, because I think I ran second. I think it was Keith, yeah.
Yeah, right. Wow. How often do you guys race together in New Zealand?
Myself and Warrenne twice. I didn't race when Graham went at all.
No, it was a couple of years before then, Wade. I went on my own twice, yeah.
Wow. That we all have to concede, don't we, that probably the pecking order of world speedcar racing is America, New Zealand, Australia. Is that an unfair comment to make?
Oh no, that's how it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, Australians don't get the racing opportunity. The New Zealand guys, they've got good equipment, and they race on that track, so they got the home track advantage. The Australian guys, we don't get the laps. Like, I remember one of the conversations that used to have a bit of a laugh with Sleepy and Jimmy Sills every year. They'd ask, "Oh, how many times you raced since you were here last year?" Warrenne, I'd go 8. And they go, "We've just come off a 58 or 60 race program." And I go, Jesus. So, like, for us to even stay on the same lap as those guys, I think was a credit to us to do it. Bloody Jim, Sleepy Trip actually said to Neville once, because Neville's having a bit of trouble getting into turn 1 and 2.
No, it was Silsey. It was Silsey.
Was it Silsey, was it?
Yeah, about come down to turn 3, you might enjoy it.
Every lap, every time we'd start a race, he'd get her into turn 1, and the thing would bike up and flip out of the ballpark. And I remember he did it 2 nights in a row, and his head was so sore. He said, I can't get out of bed. My head is so sore. So me and Blakey and Neville's crew put Neville's car back together again. And then they went out and they put something like 11 inches of stagger on it. Was it Neville or something for the...
That's right, yeah. Put a TQ wheel on the left wheel.
And went out and just blew them away. And the thing was just smoking, the V4 was revving its arse, and just creamed them, and that was a really fun time, So, and we got to meet, a lot of international drivers, the American guys, Jimmy Sills, Sleepy Trip, Dave Darlin, Robbie Flock, Tony Elliott, the list went on, and we formed a lot of good friendships, and I really, really sort of love that sort of stuff,
Yeah, comes down to turn 3, you might enjoy it. I love it. Jonesy, what do you remember of that stuff?
Oh, excellent stuff. When my first time I went there, I went on my own actually, and like Warrenne was just saying, I won my first feature there that year, and there was Sleepy Trip, Rick Vogler, Larry Rice, Stan Fox, But I don't know, like there was about 9 or 10 or 11, and I put that down to one of my greatest nights. I mean, you look back now over the years, you think of titles and stuff, but no, that was awesome, And then the next year I went back, it was under Reese Fakuri, and it was the first year it went clay, and it's the only time they ran a 60 lapper. And it was their first night there racing, and Graham Standring and I were at the back of 24 cars. It was Indian file start, and there was Schmozzle in the first turn, and I ended up upside down with probably a whole lot of the others. And my car was okay, other than the front end being bent. There was no shock absorbers working, but anyway, we lined up and went again. And I ran second to Graham Standring in the 60 lapper there, which sounds real good. I was excited, but I don't tell many people. But Graham Standring lapped me. Fair income. That guy was something on his own.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah.
It was.
He's a commentator at the Speedway now, and he goes around doing pit interviews and stuff like that.
That's him. Got it. You got it.
Yeah, I mean, before Michael Pickens, there was Graham Standring. I think that's fair to say, isn't it? Standring was the standout.
He's the man.
Michael came along.
Oh yeah, he'd win 9 times out of 10 every night, the feature and the TQ and the Speedcar.
Wow.
Run both every night. Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah. They used to call him Mr. 110, 110%. Yeah.
Wow. You mentioned a couple of, all of you mentioned a couple of superstars when I was a kid. Larry Rice, Sleepy Trip, those. I vividly remember the Lonnie Carruthers, the LTC cars coming to Claremont when they all had like the left front, like a foot off the ground. And I remember blowing my mind thinking, how can they do that? That seemed to be, those cars and those drivers seemed to change the game back then.
Yeah, well, those LTC cars, when they first come out, they were huge in New Zealand. That's what everybody used to get around New Zealand in the early days, before they went to the Stealth or the Spike and that now. But yeah, they're all parallel bar cars. And even when you went Nev, they still would have been running parallel bar cars, wouldn't they?
I don't think so. I think they're torsion bar rear and coil front, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, it had changed, yeah. But up till then, everybody ran the parallel bar cars. Yeah, that was just everywhere. Yeah, huge. And just rocket ship around there. Yeah, I mean, Sleepy Trip and those guys, yeah, they'd run just, if they didn't lift for the lap, they'd be on 3 wheels all the way around.
Didn't Senior run a car very similar to that, sort of later in around that Aussie title sort of time? Didn't he run a car very similar to that?
Yeah, I ran one at Claremont. That one that John Fenton had, I bought off him. Ran a lot of features at Claremont in that parallel bar car. Claremont was a bit big for them. They were a little bit twitchy, but they were light, very light cars and responsive, especially with the autocrafts in them. Yeah, they were rocket ship.
Didn't Gavin Migro have one of those as well?
Yeah, well, he drove mine, Warrenne. That was mine.
Okay.
My old one. He got in it and won Rookie in the Year in that car. That was the car, Wade, that I won 7 features in a row in.
Wow.
In that parallel car. I mean, even that, when you talk about highlights, that night, it just because it ended up that night, Con didn't plan it, but he had 4 Eastern Staters here. I think it was Rex Hodgin from South Australia.
Yep.
Ian Seville and I think Barry Graham and Pinchbeck were there. And we started 24 on the feature that night at Claremont. I was at the back and thinking, wow, how in the hell am I going to win this one? It was... But anyway, I went and I won. That was my 7th in the row, which equaled John Fenton's record. Yeah.
There was a kid rolling through Claremont. The night always went in stages as a kid for me. Seeing the lights in the distance, like driving towards the showground and seeing those massive lights, you just start getting goosebumps. And driving up to the gate, and they'd give you the program. I just couldn't wait to get my hands on that program. And I don't even know what year it was, but I know that Ron Wanless was on the front cover. It was a colour cover, and he had the cowboy hat on and the Winfield 25's A1 on the back. And they always used to give her the ticket stubs. Remember, my papa would put the ticket stubs in the ashtray of his old Mercedes, and to the day he died, there was always a big thing of the old ticket stubs in there. You mentioned the Speedcars and Gavin Migro, but I should mention Noel Bradford, boys. Graham, he was one of your teammates in the Broadlands Finance era, and the big chap only passed away just a few weeks ago. What an amazing man and a lovely family.
Oh, just awesome people, Wade, just a whole lot of them, They were terrific. Yeah, Noel was like a just very, very fierce competitor, but you'd never know because everything was no worries, you know. It was all, you know, he was just happy to be there, do what he did, and just enjoyed it. But he was good at what he did. Don't worry, he was good. 'Cause remember when sprint car, well, they weren't sprint cars. They were super mods when they went on strike there, and he got in a speed car, and he, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 features in the speed car as well.
He told me that when stewards would come around, the scrutineers would come around, he'd be inside the car. And I'm trying to think of the man's name that always used to check the head heights. And he used to have to try and scrunch down as low as he could in the belts just so he had enough head clearance.
Well, that car was built by the gardeners. Remember them in Queensland, Neville, that used to build Gardner cars?
Gardner, yeah.
I would remember them too, Warrenne, I'm sure.
Yeah, Greg and Gary.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I was getting the car built by them at the same time that Noel was. Anyway, I was ringing up one day, checking on a few things, and Greg said, "I can't believe it." He said, "We're building the car here for a gorilla."
That was Noel.
It's the biggest thing we've ever built. And I said, "No, he's a big man."
Do you, Nev? Do you have a favourite car and engine? Do you have a favourite package over the years? I think I have my favourite of yours, and you already know what that is. But do you have a favourite?
Well, the one that made the most noise, I guess it would have been the V4, the black V4. Yeah, that car did a lot of winning. I mean, it sort of I think it was the Philorine national title. That year we took it over there to check it out the track before the national title, and we won their state title, and then we went back to try and win the national title, and I think we won everything but the final. I mean, we broke the steering bolt, and yeah, sort of but that car certainly was a standout for me.
Jonesy, what about you?
Oh, well, obviously, I mean, as a race engine, I mean, I love the Cosworths. You know, I wish we'd never moved away from them. I wish we still ran engines like that. You know, they were so good and reliable, and everybody could have one. They were I mean, but I had, you know, good results with autocrafts and all that stuff. The Gertie was probably my biggest disappointment. What a pile of junk that was from America.
Really?
I mean, went like a shower, plenty of horsepower, but Jesus, anyway, another story.
You needed 3 of those motors to get through one night.
Yeah, right.
What about you, Warrenne?
Yeah, the BDP was definitely the engine that I would say launched my career. Very reliable, good power. You know, as for a car, probably the best car I ever had was a car we won the 50 lapper in New Zealand. It was a car that Jeff built. I turned it into it was a reverse arm car when it came from Jeff, and we turned it back into just a standard arm car over in New Zealand. We crashed the car and had to fix it. And I said, no, this is not good. And I've got a guy called Gary Harris who builds a lot of cars over there, and he just put the standard tubes back in the back of it, and that car, I don't know what it was, but it was diabolical for me to drive. It would just do anything, you know. And Robbie Farr put an end to that one. He got her in the wall for me, but it was part of my doing too. I wasn't backing off, and he wasn't giving me an inch, and that was the end of that. And, they never found the radiator, the bonnet, nothing. All the cowling all came out of the car, and we don't know where it went, but it was not with the car anymore.
You never do anything by halves, Warrenne.
No, well, that's what Murphy reckons. I always try and straighten the tubing out for him and give it back to him, but it's not.
All 3 of you have had believers in your career that have helped you in some way. Jonesy, if I said General John Day to you, and people like Danny Lendich as well. Warrenne, if I said guys like Jeff Blake and also PDQ Builders to you, and Nev, if I said Bruce Peacock perhaps to you. Who have been, you know, people in your lives, in your careers that have been instrumental in helping you get to the next level? Nev, I'll start with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure for Bruce, he helped me out to get into the NASCAR side of it and maybe have a bit of a go on the sprint car. But in the speed car, it was mainly myself. And then in the later years, my brother Darryl from Sydney, he started helping out a lot. So, yeah, it was a bit of family and a bit of outside, you know. So, yeah, I mean, but for the dirt side of it, it was mainly myself and my brother.
Yeah. Jonesy?
Oh, yeah. It was always just Jonesy. You know, something I wanted to do. I just loved shifting dirt, and it was just loved doing what I did. I mean, probably one of the influences with me, as you say, was probably Danny Lindich as well. I mean, John Day and all that were great friends and great supporters. But I think Kim Ledger kept me going there for a little while. At one stage, I was about to walk away, and he said, "No, James, you can't do that yet." I just had too much work happening. But yeah, so he helped me going for a couple of years and kept me going. So no, yeah, Kim was very good. Very good.
As a 3-car team at the time, that was pretty remarkable. Trevor Henderson was the 3rd car in that team, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Kim was always huge into presentation. It was something that I always used to slip up on. I just wanted to go racing, but Kim was fantastic with that. You know, I mean, you miss people like him in the sport. You know, if he was involved more today, things would go a lot better. Yeah.
What about you, Warrenne?
Well, as you said, mate, my father was a big influence because he raced and started me racing. Well, I wanted my brother-in-law, you know, Lyndon Sline. You know, I crewed for him a long time before I raced Speedway in motorbikes and with his sidecar. And then I raced fender benders or street stocks.
Okay.
Yeah. You know,
Really? You poor bugger.
So, you know, like I raced motocross to start with, and so I'm pretty entrenched in motor racing. But as far as help goes, you know, like Jeff Blake was definitely there. He's a lifelong friend of mine, was definitely there. But Jeff Fleming was a guy that I feel sorry for Jeff because he got suckered in. He says to me, "How much is this going to cost me to be involved in this deal?" And I said, "I don't know, like $1,800 a year for tyres or something." Well, I can tell you now, Jeff spent well over $1 million in trying to have fun, you know. So, and whenever there was any drama, it was no drama. Buy it. An engine blew up, Jeff, buy a new one. Like, so that guy was just, without him, I would definitely have not had the success I had because, you know, okay, you need people like Jeff Murphy behind you, but if you haven't got the goods, you got nothing. So you can have all the ability in the world and whatever, but you've got to have people supporting you. And I had quite a few good people actually help me out. Ross Rayner actually gave me my first chance in a midget, and that was with the Curtis Craft copy monorail chassis deal. You know, that was a really old pile of junk where the throttle used to they had a hole cut in the motor plate for your throttle, and your throttle used to be up by the engine, you know. And I'm going, gee, this is not good. So, you know, we modernised it a little bit, and it had an old bowed beam transverse spring front end in it. You know, it had coilovers on it, but it had the old bent beam. I said, "What's that for?" And they said, "Well, that's how it comes." So, you know, look, okay, we'll go race it. You know, so, but you know, the car was okay, but it was, you know, she was pretty old, ancient. The seat used to be held in with 3 zuzzies. You know, like, well, you wouldn't even dream of that now, would you?
Hey, Warren, those early throttles were good on the cold nights because your foot used to get nice and warm because it was in the engine bay under the sump, wasn't it? Holdy couldn't drive those ones bare feet, Wade, I can tell you.
Too funny.
Lancey, what are you doing, mate? I did see your car was for sale in the pits at the Motorplex recently. Do you still have it? Is it gone? What are you doing?
Oh, fortunately for me, it's been sold, and a young guy here in Perth is taken it, and he's going to race at the Motorplex this season, hopefully, when it all opens up. And yeah, he's doing a few changes to it. It's down at Murphy's now, having a few mods done, and yeah, to suit him. And he's changing the body panels. He wants to put it into the latest style, which is fine. Yeah, I think he's really keen. He's buying all his stuff, and he's looking for spares, which I got plenty of for him. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Back in the day, you wouldn't have had many spares. Jonesy, you nearly won another Australian title, mate. Alex Bright nearly got you the win at Warrnambool.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. Yeah, that was a good night. I mean, it was always going to be a tough gig against Masita. I mean, he's a professional World of Outlaw guy, which it doesn't matter. I mean, the tougher the competition, the better you like it. You know, we had to get on top of our game a little bit. We had a little bit of heat trouble, but Alex is a good driver. Probably a bit better than what he even knows. I wish somebody in America would pick him up and give him a run because he would be good. I mean, I only race 3 or 4 times a year, so it takes me a little while to get everything on the pace. But yeah, it would have been good. There was a couple of times he was just about to have a shot to make a passing move, and both times we got a red light. So he went back, and then on the last run there was only 4 laps, and he actually went over the cush a bit in coming out of turn 2 and lost a few car spots. Otherwise, it was going to be a hell of a last lap, I can tell you. But those two really went at it. I think Warrenne would say he was there, and they were probably just a little bit better than the rest. But Macedo was a good gig. But yeah, Roddy did a good job. Very pleased.
So can I ask you, did Warrenne Ekins try to buy your driver at all in the Calcutta? Because he tried to buy everybody else. From what I understand, he spent more money on the Calcutta than most people in their season. Did he try and pinch your driver or not?
I was going to spin him out if he did, so he left him alone.
Warrenne, have you got any race cars left?
I've got some sprint car stuff, all down in Perth, actually. They're selling bits and pieces off, and there's a few motors down there. I think there's still another 3 or 4 engines and a couple of chassis and bits and pieces, yeah. So just trying to get rid of it, and I'll see what happens. I'm not saying I'm done with sprint car racing at all, but something that I would really like to do is buy a midget and race the international series in New Zealand with a driver. But I'm holding off on that for 2 reasons. One is business is pretty slow, as you know, here in Darwin. Right, well, Darwin's been hurting for a couple of years, so I've sort of just been sitting back waiting, and now we've been hit with this dreaded virus scandal, so that's jerked the slack out of it a little bit more as well. So, but by no means have I hung the ownership deal up. I'm definitely never going to drive again. I worked that out. I just bought myself an iRacing deal, and I've been, man, McIver's been here trying to help me set it up, and I can get around some of these big tracks. It's sort of okay, but you get on those small little bull rings, and I've got the thing over the fence more times. And what I did 110 laps, and I crashed 90 times. So I'll have to lift my game, but just keeps you entertained. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. There's still plenty of racing left in me yet. I love the sport, and I love going there, and I love trying new things and building different cars. A bit like Murphy gave me a disease, I think, that I just always want to try something different, So, because if you're doing the same as what everybody else is doing, you got to get it better than them to win. So, but if you've got something that's better than them, well, Murphy and I have built we built a layover sprint car deal once, and went and did the Western Trail with that, and that turned out to be a really good deal. That good they actually banned it. So. We just got to keep looking for new things, and that's the nature of the sport. Is always kind of like Neville's always experimenting with his engines, looking for more power with the Ford engines and stuff like that. And it's turned out he was ahead of the game with his head knowledge with the Fords, because they make good power, and people are just starting to realise it now. So. If that's a feather in Neville's cap that he saw that. What I don't know, probably 10 years ago, Neville. Been now 8 years.
Oh, look, it was the year that Bob Holt won his national title up in Darwin. It was the first year for it, yeah. Yeah. So, I just love the competition and the intrigue of the game. It's always, and being on dirt, the track changes so much. So you can go from chocolate to boiled lollies in no time at all. So.
Yeah. Hey, Warrenne, all I can say, if you ever do get round to doing it, fella, you will enjoy it. You really will enjoy it. I didn't. I thought it was strange to start with somebody driving for you, and you're thinking, oh shit, it's all different. But
yeah, we did that with a sprint car. I had Jason driving with it for a few years, and I really enjoyed that as well. It's a good kick. I get it. Yeah.
I can't wait to see Lancey driving for you in New Zealand, Warrenne. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'll get you to turn 4.
You should try turn 3. You might have some fun.
Yeah.
So, boys, what I'd love you to do is let's talk about Warrenne for a second here, Jonesy and Neville. I want you to think, if someone says to you, how do you rate Warrenne Ekins as a driver or a person? I don't care. Tell me what you think.
Oh, well, yeah, I'll go first with that. It's look, I never socialised a lot with Warrenne, but as I said, just loving the sport. I mean, the guy is just a hell of a racer, and and that's important wherever you go. That you knew if you're racing with him or watching or whatever you're doing, that the guy is a racer, and he knows no different. And that's why I know that if he does become a car owner, he'll still be a racer, and he'll be a hell of a competition to beat. Yeah, if he does get into it. No problem. Enjoyed the runs for sure.
Lance.
Yeah, look, myself with Warrenne and I never had a problem with Warrenne, but even back in the Darwin when we had the issue, I always put it down to the officials. Warrenne and I were just racing as hard as we could, and ever since that weekend, we've never spoke badly. I mean, we've had a lot of fun over the years. I mean, we didn't see a lot of each other, but when we did catch up, it was a lot of fun. I mean, we're two different sort of people, but I really enjoyed it. And as a driver, I highly respected him. I never had a problem at all with him, and I don't think he had a problem with me. And on the track, if we came together, if there was any sort of beef, it stayed on the infield. It never came outside the speedway walls. I mean, I'd never say anything bad about him, not at all.
Warrenne Ekins, what do you think of that prick, Warrenne Ekins?
Yeah, I feel really sort of flattered, actually. No, thank you for all those kind words. And look, if you're asking me to say the same thing about those two guys, you know what I think. Graham was the ultimate professional, the gentleman. He perceived to be the gentleman. He was a hard racer, so don't worry about that. And he wouldn't, as I said, in the national title there at Claremont in the pole shuffle, like I was pissed off when he hit me up the arse, you know, and it cost us the pole shuffle, and I came into the pits and I had a big rev at Murphy about it. I said, that effing arsehole, what the hell? And he said, hey, he wants to win the race too. And he said, get your shit together. I said, okay. Well, so that fired me up. You know, now I'm bloody angry. So, you know, he might have done himself a disservice, but he was gone for all money in that Australian title and checked out. But so, you know, there's no doubt about what Jonesy's ability and his determination and professionalism to the sport. There's not many people that would probably do it with the class that he did it, and always very well spoken and well groomed, I suppose, you know. And as for Neville, well, Neville is to me one of the most determined, hard charging drivers. Just to stand on the gas and I'm going to get this thing done, you know, and like there's never give up attitude, and that goes for his whole racing career. From what I can see, his determination and longevity is a sign of his determination, you know, like he just keeps going, and you never know and can never say it's over with Neville, because you pass him and the bastard will be back at you again, you know. So he always had good equipment. He did most of the work himself on the motors and stuff. He bought good gear, and I know he had Murphy in his corner there, and Murphy's always a very parochial guy that would always want to help a Western Australian, but he understood that he had two drivers that had his car and wanted to try and do the good thing for both people, and I think he handled that very well himself. And I think in the later part of Neville's life, the challenges he's facing now tells you how much determination he's got. And I admire him for that as well, and his family, and they're just nice people, and I can't say enough for them.
Lancey, tell me about Jonesy.
Well, Graham, he was a quiet achiever. That's how I knew him. In his racing days, him and I didn't do a lot of talking, apart from, you know, we knew each other, nodded head. We were polite to each other. On the racetrack, I don't really think him and I got together much. I might be wrong there, Graham. What do you think? I think we're just tough competitors.
You a couple of times. A couple of times.
But no, look, and since Graham stopped racing, I've got to know him better than ever. I mean, we socialise together. We go to his Christmas parties. When he had his business, we looked after his trucks when he had a problem. I mean, no, he's a great fellow, and he's a quiet achiever, that's for sure. And I really respect him as a racer and as a friend as well, and to his family. We know all of them. I mean, even though we're not racing anymore, the times are still good. I mean, I appreciate everything he's done for me, even he helped us out over the years in certain things. And yeah, no, he's a really good friend.
Jonesy, it's your turn to return serve, mate. You're the last. You get the last word on Nev.
Well, I mean, what can you say? I mean, our runs at Claremont. I mean, one of Neville's crew, the guy down south. His name's just skipped me for a sec. Neville.
Blake.
Yeah, Blake. That's him, mate. I mean,
He was your teacher.
Yeah,
Tim Blee, yep.
Timmy Blee. He wrote up a couple of good write-ups on you and I that. Yeah, you know, the full throttle nights where it was just neither of us were going. It didn't matter what was going to happen. Either we keep on going till they run out of fuel. But we're always going to get each other. And as Warrenne said, it was right. There were several people you knew when you'd passed them. He was put to bed. You're looking for the next guy, looking for that bloody Lancer. You'd passed him 4 laps ago. And next man, boff! He was gone again. Where did he come from? But no, it was full bore competition and every bit. As both the guys have said, look, none of us, I don't think, would change anything we did. And as Neville said, look, I never had time to socialise a lot when I raced. I was too busy, but we did, always polite to each other. And since we've stopped racing, we've actually become good friends and probably appreciated each other for what we did more than what we did back then. It was how we did it, and it was
very true. Yeah.
It was, and I always tried to do things right. Sometimes I got a bit mad. I always remember, but there's a few people said to me since I've stopped racing, yeah, Jonesy, you're a top guy, but you got a bit of mongrel.
Nice.
And I thought, you probably have to have that anyway, don't you? If you're going to win. That's what it's about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Correct.
Hey, I can't thank you guys enough for this. It's been an absolute blast for me. You guys are obviously, Warren's a lot older than all of us, but as a kid watching you three get after it at Claremont in particular for me was just absolutely one of the highlights of my life. And I cannot even, sometimes I pinch myself to even think I'm friends with either one of you guys. So thank you for everything that you guys did. Jonesy keeps calling it making circles and turning dirt. Bullshit. It was more to us on a Friday night than you can possibly imagine, and it still is to this day to look back on pride and think you three are on my laptop right now. Ekins is on my laptop all the time sending me Asian conspiracy theories. I've just had a break for an hour of sending them to me. Thank God. That's what this has been the best part of. Thank you so much, boys. Please be well, Nev. Please be well, Jones. Okay. You've had your battles too, mate. Give our love to Gwenny. Nev, your wife Cherie's an absolute star. I'm sure you know that as well. And Warrenne, thank God for Jack and McIver and to keep you in line as well.
Thanks, mate.
Hey,
thank you very much.
Thanks for putting all this together. I didn't know how it was going to go. As you know, I'm not real good at this sort of stuff, but I've got to tell you, I've enjoyed it. And it's great to be in touch with these other guys who are still involved with Speedway. When you think about all the things we've done and how many people walk away and hate the sport, just so never coming back, never want to be involved, never know anything, but all 4 of us here tonight, I think, just love it. We just love it.
Yeah.
It's a great thing.
For sure.
That's for sure, James. You find that a lot, that there's a lot of people come and go in Speedway, and probably in a lot of sports it's the same too, but there's the diehards that love the sport for what it is, and whether they're racing or not, they'll still be there, And we're in that mould, and I think it was born into me. I didn't have much choice, so... And I'm glad, and I wouldn't, as Neville said before, wouldn't change or do anything any different. Maybe I could sharpen up my vocabulary a little bit when we get on the run. But other than that, I'm okay. I think we've had a good time, and a bit of what you guys have sort of said before. And I don't care who you are. When you're a race car driver, you've got an ego, because you haven't got, without one of them, you ain't nobody. Because you've got to believe in yourself. And while you're racing, even though you're mates, you're competitors. And you'll find now that none of us are racing anymore. Everybody respects what you achieved on the racetrack and who you are as a person. And that's why everybody looks back and goes, wow, they weren't such a prick after all. They're actually a decent guy. They're just a bit like me.
Hey, and the one thing, Warrenne, that when you talk about racing that I always admired with what we did, dirt is the greatest equaliser. It doesn't matter whether you're a lawyer or a garbo. Once they shut that pit gate, you're all the same.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
I'll give that, yep.
And you just go for it. You go for it.
It's just the garbo didn't have a V4 scat.
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone. Be
Cheers.
safe.
Okay. Bye bye.
Okay.
Yeah,
See you, Warren.
Cheers,
See you.
all.
see you, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.